Support for the Couples Council comes from Mercier Wellness and Consulting. Their purpose is to equip you with the right skills for a happy and healthy relationship. Services available in office or virtual. Schedule your consultation now. For more information, visit mercierwellness.com. Mercier Wellness and Consulting, small steps, big changes.
This podcast is not a substitute for therapy. Please consult a licensed professional for your mental health needs.
Now on with the show.
Hello and welcome to the Couples Council. I'm your host, Dr. Jameson Mercier, licensed clinical social worker, and we're continuing our series on dads in the month of Father's Day. Yes, you heard that correct. We have dubbed June as Father's Day month, and we're going strong and we're not backing down. So if you got a problem with it, send me an email, send me a DM. That's quite all right with me. I'd like to take a moment and wish all the dads who are listening, and even the ones who are not yet listening. I'd like to wish you guys happy Father's Day, even though by the time you hear this episode, you would have celebrated already. I do sincerely hope it was a good time for you. So all in all, I hope you guys had a good Father's Day. And I hope you're continuing to have a good Father's Day month. Okay, so if you have a father, if there's a father in your life, we are not stopping yet. All right, we still have some time left in June where we're celebrating dads. So a couple housekeeping things. We told you that we are getting ready to wrap up season 1. Yay. I know we told you that before, but this time we're for real. So much so that by the time you hear this episode, we would have already gone on vacation. Okay. As a matter of fact, it would be the first leg of our vacation. We're actually going to be doing some camping, in the Florida Keys. And if you've been to the Florida Keys, if you've driven by it or even seen it on a postcard, you know it's definitely going to be a good time. So we'll be taking advantage of this tropical oasis that we live in, and then on the second leg, we're going to link up with some family and head on up into Canada. When I say some family, I'm not talking one or two. We actually have about 10 or 12 other family members that we're going to be traveling with. If you know anything about us, you know this is a tradition that we keep, whether it's road tripping or camping or whatever the case is, whether it's cruising, we roll deep. So we're doing it again. And as a matter of fact, even though we're not going to be releasing any new episodes other than the remaining Dadfident series, you can connect with us. Actually, you can keep track of us and our travels and our adventures. I started a new passion project. It's called Creole Adventures. And the idea behind Creole Adventures is that we're already outside. We're already in the woods. We're already on these adventures. Why not just share the adventure? Every now and then we post some pics and videos, but we've actually created a whole Instagram called Creole Adventures. And if you get a chance, we encourage you to check it out. We encourage you to subscribe to that. Check out the Instagram Creole Adventures. Follow there. Creole Adventures is spelled with a C. That's CREOLE Adventures. Creole Adventures is the Instagram. But enough of that. We're going to get into our second part of our conversation with Mr. Tracy Martin. As you all know, father of the late Trayvon Martin, who was murdered back in 2012. He's talking about some of the things you and I hope we never have to go through. I look at him and his experience. I look at him and the turn that his life has taken, And I pray for this man. I encourage him as he has been an encouragement for me. He's doing a lot to speak up for the community, to speak up for dads, and to speak up for our kids. So if you ever get a chance, check out some of his work, his writings, his book. The Trayvon Martin Foundation will link you to everything that he does. The work that he does for fathers, Circle of Fathers, and all the camps that he puts on for the kids. So that is who we're talking about. We're really talking with a beacon of the community. So now, without any further ado, any further delay, we're just going to pick up where we left off with part 2 of our Dadfident series conversation with Mr. Tracy Martin. Enjoy.
Just knowing that the likeness of Trayvon has been the voice for many of our children, many of our, not only our children, but many of our families, because you look at the likeness of Trayvon, just the image of Trayvon, and you know that he galvanized this country in a way that we haven't seen in years. And this is, and a lot of people compared Trayvon to Emmett Till. Honored to know that Trayvon shed so much light on the injustices that plague our country.
Yeah,
you look at and Trayvon just didn't happen in 2012. It's been happening for years. It just haven't been discovered. Nobody really had the courage to stand up to society and say, no, this is wrong. And so by us standing up and, exposing, I pretty much exposing the state of Florida and the judicial system and how the justice system works for us as African American, I think that that set a trend, because you look at it, you look at it since 2012, since the death of Trayvon, since the acquittal of Trayvon, and since the acquittal of Trayvon, and since the presidency of Trump, people feel more empowered to do things to our young Black men and women today more than ever.
Yeah, there's been a shift in the culture for sure. Unfortunately, there's been that shift. Now, that leads me to think just how much more important it is as dads. If we were important 10, 20 years ago in this climate, how much more do you think, how much more is it that our boys need men like you in the community, need their fathers present, because they need to be taught these lessons, how to engage, how to protect themselves. So have you had to have those conversations with your boys?
Oh yeah, definitely. And especially with my youngest, Tyler, he's 6 years old now. And Tyler's, and I just can't help but to call him a blessing. As I said, Tyler was conceived in March or April of 2012, and he was born January 1st, 2013. So I looked at it as I lost a son the second month of February 2012, and here it is, the first day of the new year, I have a son.
Wow.
And so I kind of protect him in a way that he's, man, and people, I talk to my brothers, and my brothers always tell me that's Trayvon. He does everything that Trayvon does. He acts just like him. He's under me just like him, 24/7. First thing he do when he come home, he hugging me or he kissing me. It's just, we have a bond that's, we like very, very close. And so I have a comment. You know, he was born. He didn't know his brother, but by him watching TV, being engaged, he know. You know, so I have to, you know, I really have to break scenarios and situations down to him and let him know that this world can end up being it's a cruel world out there if you let it grab you by, if you let the bull grab you by the horns instead of you grabbing the bull by the horns. You know, it's going to be a rough time in your life. One thing that I do is I explain to him the X and O's of life.
Okay.
But we shouldn't, you know, as parents, we shouldn't have to have a blueprint as to what our children do when they walk outside of our doors. We shouldn't have to, but it's wise to give them the blueprint.
Right.
Let me protect you. Let me give you that extra protection
to make sure you come home at night.
That's right. This is gonna help you get home. I did have those conversations with my other kids. I had the conversation with Trayvon. It's just an unfortunate that the assailant of Trayvon had an ulterior motive, and so, you know, he was, you know, we talk conflict resolution all the time with our kids.
Right.
We sent him to. I have a good friend that was City of Miami police. He was in internal affairs, and he ran a youth program. And my kids have been involved in the youth program all of their lives, along with the 5,000 role models. So they definitely knew conflict resolution, how to avoid certain situations, how to respect your elders, and so that's kind of giving them the blueprint to make it home safe. But what do we do when that blueprint doesn't work? And so that's the conversation that, you know, I'm having with a 6-year-old now today, you know.
Yeah, I imagine a lot of fathers are having a lot of conversations with their kids, with their boys, that they didn't imagine having to have. One thing I'm asking myself, even as I observe this thing play out from the sidelines, before, like most people, before, you know, you lost your son, I did not know you. And even when the news broke about you losing your son, I still didn't know you. But 2012, what was that? 2012, my son was born. I had a brand son, my only son. And so when I saw that, it hit me in a way that that news like that never hit me before, because I had just become a father of a boy, you know? And so when I was watching that, even though I didn't know you, it was like I was feeling myself losing my son.
A lot of, you know what, I get that. I think that's what makes us as African descent. That's the beauty of us, that we are very sensitive to other people's issues.
Right. So here's the thing, right? So that was a Saturday night. That was also the night of the basketball All-Stars.
All-Star, yep.
And so I remember that vividly, because I didn't sleep that night at all, nor did I sleep the other night. And I mean, that's nothing compared to you, but here I am in my little house with my kids, and here being deeply impacted by this. And I became enraged. I mean, enraged like I've never been before, for this kid, for his parents, for the community, enraged at just the way, like, I got angry. I mean, I got pissed. And so I look at you and the way you guys went through all that with such class, and I say, you know, we have anger, but we have all kinds of emotions, and I don't know how I'd be able to process that, but you, um, and again, I mean, we go through things and we have our moments, but just thinking of how I felt not being in it, I can only imagine you and what you were going through. So for what it's worth, man, it's like, I think people were expecting to see the anger, but you displayed so much more, which is what I'm getting at is, as men, we do have those emotions.
Oh yeah.
People expect us to be angry, but we are just now maybe being allowed to show those emotions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think for the most part, for years we've definitely been we put ourselves in a situation whereas we hid our emotions, and I just think that I look at the image. There's an image of me on Getty Images, which I was at a podium somewhere speaking, and tears were rolling down my face, and they kind of sort of had the American flag illuminating in the back of me. And somebody took the image and said, "This is sort of." It was sort of like emotions of a father or something like that. And that's something that as a dad that we often we just don't express our emotions in the public like that.
Yeah.
We feel as though it's not masculine for us to do that, when in fact it's the total opposite.
I agree 100%.
It shows that you are human. We are human.
100%, man.
And I just felt as though I lost something that I never thought I would lose. And if I sat back and held in my emotions for losing something that meant so much to me, then I feel as though that's an issue in itself.
Right. Let me tell you, man, that what everything you just said is the reason why one of the campaigns we run is something called Manfident, because there's all this stuff out there about masculinity and toxic masculinity, and that to be a man, you got to fight, you got to be tough, you got to have a bunch of kids and forget about them, right? Not necessarily be responsible, just be able to have a lot of kids, be angry all the time. And, we call it Manfident, and Manfident really is showing the true and correct meaning of manhood, right? The fact that we have other emotions beyond anger, that we don't have to fight to be a man.
I think that society has placed a label on what manhood is really supposed to be. I think we, and that's why the Circle of Fathers, we're this year's theme is redefining fatherhood. That's because of the things that you just said, that we feel as though we have to put on this facade and we're the toughest person in the world, and we have to have 1,000 kids to define what a man is. That's not being a man.
Oh no.
Any guy can go and have 1,000 kids.
Yep.
But it takes a real man to be a father.
Yes, sir.
And so that's that this year's event thing, Redefining Fatherhood. That's what this is all about. And I think this probably will be one of the most powerful conferences that we've had in a while. And so I'm excited about it. We're creating a real buzz about it. I think one of the most important components of it all is talking about the mental health state of fathers. Man, listen, I can't say it enough. We often when we talk about mental health, the the perception of mental health is, straight jacket, mental home, issues like that, and that's far from the truth. We have to get out and let them know that mental health issues are, our young black boys out here shooting down each other. It's just an incident that happened the other day. Young man and his 6-7-year-old son were gunned down in Miami Gardens, man, and that hit to the core.
Wow. And
even with the young men that were ran down on the bus stop in North Miami, that let's look at the mental health effect. How is that going to affect their fathers? How is that going to affect their family?
Exactly. I mean, when we talk about men and depression, right? The prevalence of men in depression is through the roof. When you look deeper into those numbers, a large number of the men dealing with depression are fathers.
Yeah,
they are definitely fathers. And so, so the mental health component, man, and that whole myth, right? That whole myth, as a man, I don't need any counseling. That in many cases, that is the best thing a man can get, a father can get. And counseling doesn't have to be sitting in an office, Counseling, it doesn't have to be getting a diagnosis and taking medication, although there's a place for it. Sometimes there's just some things that happen, and, medication is medication. If you broke a leg, there'd be no doubt that you'd go to the hospital, get it,
medication,
get the medicine for that. The mind is the same way, if not more important, and this idea that as men and fathers, we got to be tough and we can work through those things without any help. That is really doing a disservice to fathers, to men, to our families. One of the things we talk about in being manfident and dadfident is that you're an anchor for your family. And if you're going to be an anchor, if you're going to be a foundation, you owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself to take care of your mental, to take care of your mind.
Yeah. Because we always talk about that foundation and the pillars of that foundation. Even though the father we know that the father is the anchor of that foundation, but what surrounds, what helps build that structure is the people around you, your family. And so, even though I look at it as we being the foundation, the structure around that foundation is so important. And, I think that that's something that we need to put out there and let it resonate with our young men. Let that sink in. Your foundation, your structure, man, what you build around you. And so as fathers, we try to, we can't control who come in our lives, who our soulmates are, but once our soulmate come into our life, we need to understand how we're going to build together and be, and make it last forever. So, I think I tell myself all the time, if I'm at 50, I'll be 53 years old this year. And if I had half of the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that I had, if I had it 25, 30 years ago, I think that, I could have did some adjusting in my life, and I would probably be, in a different situation. But one thing I always say is, you learn from your mistakes, and I don't regret my life at all. I just know that, I could have made some adjustments down the road. And for my family, not for me, but for my family.
Yeah, I mean, that's the story of life, man. I mean, you're saying that at 50 plus. I'm sitting here younger than you are. And I'm like, man, if I knew some things 20 years ago, I'd have done some things differently. So we're always going to say that. But what I want to commend you on is that you seem to have taken this knowledge, have taken this experience. You seem to have taken this trauma, and you flipped it You know, you didn't let it beat you down or keep you
Mm-hmm.
down. You're now taking it and pushing it forward and planting some seeds for generations to come. You know, and this is why we're having this conversation, because this is what's not discussed within the Black community when it comes to fathers. You know, this is what's not seen when it comes to some of the good that's happening within the community, and that's what this series is about.
Yeah,
So
man. I think it's a great thing that you're doing. Especially getting fathers involved. Like I said, I just Father's Day is truly a month where we need to recognize, and so uh, that this year, what we're doing with the Circle of Fathers, we're having what we call an unsung hero, where we're
mm,
trying to get we're trying to, and that unsung hero is a dad that's in the community or that's in the household that nobody knows about.
there's a
You
lot
know,
of them, man. There's a
it's a
lot of
lot of
them.
them. Oh yeah, and so we're trying to get the families to actually, um, you know, nominate their fathers. We can only do so many, but there's a lot of unsung heroes out there, man, that we really don't know about.
Yeah.
Um, Father's Day is right around the corner, and they're having an event out at Dwayne Wade Sr. is having
Mhm.
an event. He has an event that he has every year. I think he's having it at North Miami. It's going to be at North Miami High School, where it's a 3-day event where he's honoring fathers and the things that they do, and they're having a picnic, and they're going to have a kickball game, a softball game, where they just want fathers and their families to come out and just be a part of it. And so I think that's huge, and that's going to be it's going to be big in the communities, because um, now now it's the time to let's say, okay, we got to get back on track
Yeah.
as fathers. We have to get back on track because there's just too much turmoil in the streets right now.
Yeah. There's a
Uh,
huge need. There's a huge need. Huge.
Anytime, listen, man, our families are afraid to go to the store. I don't, I try not to let my wife go to the gas station and pump gas by herself. It's just, I don't know, man. Our children are, they're getting caught up in so much of the social media. Uh, I think social media has a huge role in the destruction of Black men and women.
Mm.
Um, it's between social media and reality TV shows. I refuse to watch the Real Housewives of Atlanta. I refuse to watch it because it or either Love and Hip Hop Miami. I refuse to watch it for the simple fact that it goes against everything that we're trying to do
All right.
as men. It
It's
just goes
television.
against
You know,
it.
it's entertainment, and it's undoing it's tearing down
What you
what you're trying to
what
build.
we're trying to do right now.
Yeah. Yeah. There's
Because you look at it, what those shows are predicated on are sex, drugs, and alcohol.
yeah.
And this it's just and so our children watch it and they figure, that this is my outlet. This is how I'm going to get out of it. And truth be told, many of those people are living day to day. And so
Yeah.
they're not taking the mascara off and telling the kids the true story behind success or failure behind those shows. And
Mhm.
it gives a negative. It just gives a negative vibe to the Black family. You look at a show and the women on the show that if they're not arguing, they're throwing alcohol on each other or
Right.
fighting.
Right.
That's
It's
that's
just a bad look, man. It's a bad look. And
oh yeah,
I gotta tell you, it keeps bringing me back to the importance of dads being present,
oh
being
yeah,
involved, being
oh yeah.
engaged. When I come home and when they need someone to talk to about that, I can actually guide the conversation. If you're engaged with your kids, they call you up, you can say, hey, listen, I know that's what they said, but here's the true reality, you know, and you can only do that if you have that relationship with your kids. If you, right, if you're not there, then they're just going to get that from all kinds of places and take it as truth when in fact it's not.
Yeah. Our children are so, it's to influence a child nowadays, it doesn't take much.
Oh, no. No.
It doesn't take much. You know, our kids, like I said, social media has replaced family time. It was a time where as a family, we would sit together, we would eat together. And now it's okay, you fix your plate and you go up in your room and you get on, you know, you on social media, you Snapchatting or you on Instagram or whatever. It's taking away family time.
It is. It is.
And I think that my 6-year-old, you know, he loves YouTube, and you know, but I'll take the phone from him. Hey, put the phone down, grab a book.
Oh yeah, listen, technology it has good and bad, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It allows for so much, but again, there just has to be some parameters. And you know, you being older, being wiser, having seen some things, I keep going back to it, right? They need you to implement those parameters.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And so you can't give up when they push back, you know, which is something that fathers, you know, when the kids push back, they throw their hands in the air.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I said, Dad, you can't do
that. That's
when
you're giving up. Yeah. That's when you can't give up. That's just that's a sign of that you giving up.
Man, I said, Dad, you can't do that. They're supposed to push back. They're supposed to go in the room and slam the door and tell you, I hate you. But that's when you're doing your job. That's when you know you're doing your job.
Yeah, because at that point, you're separating being your child's friend and being your child's parent.
That's what's up.
You're separating.
They need to know that.
And that's what the children don't understand. When you start separating, you know, those two, that's when the real lesson begins.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's when the real lesson begins. My Tyler tell me all the time, Daddy, we best friends. You my best friend. Yeah, I'm your best friend. But guess what? I'm your daddy. I'm your father.
Oh yeah. So,
know the difference. Know the difference. You know the difference. I think it's how we discipline our children. Because I came up in the era where the whippings that I received. Nowadays we call it child abuse.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so, you know, I'm a strict disciplinarian, you know, when it comes to my kids. But it's how you discipline them. You know, it's the relationship you build with them. And so with the 6-year-old, my tone can elevate.
Oh yeah, just the look will do it.
Yeah. And he shuts down.
Mm-hmm.
And so and so that in itself, you know, I firmly believe that our children have to fear us to a certain extent. They have to have some form of fear. If there's no form of fear, if they don't understand that, man, if I do bad in school, my parents will take this away from me. That's the type of fear I'm talking about.
Yeah, they need to know the consequences.
Exactly. It has to be a fear level, because I had fear. You know, I knew that if I did something wrong, you know, what were the consequences? And so we have to have our kids to understand, hey, there's consequences behind every wrong action that you do.
Right. And they know that, again, man, because you're there. Because you're there, you're present day in and day out. You know what they're
when you're not there, you can't.
Yeah, you can't implement no consequences if you're not around.
You can't. And not to say that just because you're not in the same household, even if you're in two separate households, you can still be there and be very impactful on the kid, man.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
And this is another myth that's out there, right? That because dads are not in the home, or they call them the broken homes, that now that means the kids are suffering and that he's not involved and he's not parenting his kid. Families look different nowadays.
Yeah.
And so, it isn't to say that just because you guys aren't under one roof that your kid is gonna not get your attention. So I'm glad you brought that up. You know what, Tracy? We can go on and on and on.
I know.
I have to tell you, man, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
I have as well. Man. I'm glad you reached out, boss lady. but it's a conversation this is a conversation that we need, man. And listen, Dr. Mercier, anytime that you want me to come on and be a part of your podcast, I'm more than willing to do it.
Man, I'm gonna hold you to that. Trust me, I'm gonna hold you to that. And like I said, we're gonna reach out and stay connected, stay involved. Tell us a little bit more. Now, you were talking about the conference coming up. For people who are listening and would like to be engaged or get tickets or information, like, what are you doing? Let us know how to find you.
Well, you can go on the Trayvon Martin Foundation, TrayvonMartinFoundation.org. Click on the Circle of Fathers link, and it'll give you a lot more detailed information and instructions on how to be a part of the conference, how to submit a father for the unsung hero. But this year's conference, as I said before, we're calling it Redefining Fatherhood. We really want to chime on examining the disparities and the impact of the absent fathers, the public perception of African American men, mental health illness, drug abuse, how that all affects us as families. And so this conference, we're trying to get our young men involved. So we've reached out to the 5,000 role models, the 100 Black men of America, and the fraternities and the churches, to get young men involved. We're definitely going to have a panel. We're going to have a panel dealing with grief and fathers, and I actually wanted to reach out to the young men, the fathers of the young men that were hit on that bus stop in that tragic incident, and try to get them engaged in it, because I know it's a difficult time for them as well. Yes. And so this conference is just all about empowering our men, our fathers, and
awesome.
Just going back to the premise, the basis of what being a father truly is. And so the conference is August 3rd, 2019. It'll be held. The conference will be held at Miramar. We're back at the Miramar Cultural Center, City Hall. And the dinner will probably be held at Shula's Restaurant in Miami Lake.
Okay, good. And you know what? We're going to put all those links up, put all that information in our show notes. Let me tell you, man, thank you for all you're doing. Thank you for accepting the challenge. Thank you for not backing down, because, I can see that it's much needed. So we appreciate you, man. So one final question I wanted to ask, because I know I do it sometimes, and other fathers I talk to, some of them do it, some don't. Is there anything that keeps you up at night as a father, as a man? What? Go ahead.
I have a thing in my household, man, where I have to make sure that my house is secure, safe, and sound. The thing that keeps me up is I want to be the protector, the provider of my household, and so I'm usually the last one to lay down and the first one to get up. I just the security of my family is what keeps me up at night. And just knowing that I've secured them at night, I go to room. I go from room to room. It's a must that Tyler said he says his prayers at night, and so I'll go in his room and I'll get on my knees with him, say his prayers, and I'll tuck him in. Those are the things that fathers are supposed to do, and so that's one of and once I get everybody tucked in and in their respective places, I feel as though I can rest. And so being able to lay down and close my eyes and say my prayers as well at the end of the night, knowing that my family is safe and sound, that's what does it for me.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that, and I can relate to a lot of that. Yeah. Thank you. I'm sure a lot of fathers can relate too.
Oh yeah.
Appreciate that.
I appreciate you and all that you do, Doc.
Thank you, sir. And this is where I'm going to leave you. All right.
All right. Much love, peace, and blessings to you and your family.
Well, guys, that was the second half of our conversation with Mr. Tracy Martin. I do sincerely hope that you enjoyed the conversation. I hope that you learned the conversation. I hope you had some takeaways. Additionally, I hope that you will share some of those takeaways, be it with other dads, be it with other moms, or just other people you encounter, because we have a lot we can learn from his experience. As always, we ask that you share your reviews, share your thoughts with us, share your comments. You can find Herdine, who's not with me today, but that's fine. She's actually making final preparations for our trip. Share your thoughts and comments and ideas with us. We're on Instagram at The Wife Mentor, or on my page, Dr. Jameson Mercier. Feel free to leave those reviews on iTunes or Stitcher, whatever comment you may have. And you can always find us on mercierwellness.com. Check out Tracy Martin's foundation, the Trayvon Martin Foundation. You can find out more about the upcoming conferences and any other activities that they are putting on. Thank you guys as always. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for supporting us. We can't wait for season 2, but right now we're just wrapping up season 1. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for spreading the word. And we hope you'll come back as we wrap up this series for yet another episode of the Couples Council. Bye now.
Hey everybody, thank you for listening to our mom and dad. If you like them as much as we do, then click subscribe and leave a comment. But now they have to go because it's family time.
So go practice what you heard, and we'll catch you on the next episode.